So appropriately, the final match is on the penultimate, most balanced, respected map in StarCraft 2 history, Daybreak. This one has hosted thousands of classics. It's like the Roman Coliseum or Old Yankee Stadium. And Innovation vs. Soulkey has been an exceptional series, and Innovation has looked completely infallible throughout his entire GSL run, but suddenly he's in this sort of grotesque situation where nobody thought that this was ever going to be close. Nobody thought that Soulkey was going to take more than like a map off of an all-in. When Soulkey won that game 4 with a big all-in, a big Roach Bane all-in, no one was saying like, oh, yeah, he's going to come back. Or like, yeah, that's the start of a comeback. That was just like, oh, just like the Roro series. It's just like Cold Case Files. It's just like Cold Case Files. As that's what Innovation says to himself when he thinks about those matches. Because this was such a weird series that got away from Innovation, and it got away from him in such a way that it was just so fast. It reminds me of Game 6 of the 2003 NLCS, the infamous Steve Bartman game, where the inning just gets away from Mark Pryor so quickly. There was such a period of elite dominance and S-class play, and he looked completely untouchable. And then things just go to shit so hard and so fast. You lose to a couple Baneling all-ins, and then you go 2 racks, like for whatever reason, like I know he likes 2 racks on that map, and like I know it's good on that map, and like I talked about why it was good with the long distance between the main and natural, but man, like your Innovation, people are scared of you whenever you're on 3 bases. Like you're gonna 2 racks on that map, and that's sort of like that's sort of the Terran's like love-hate relationship with the 2 racks. Is this is such an absurdly lethal build that can steal you so many tournament wins, steal you so many ladder wins, so easy to execute. 95% of the time when you're playing against Zerg, they're gonna go hatch first, and if they don't, they want to. And a lot of times people are just going to blind do that and say, if he 2 racks, he 2 racks, I'll try to hold it, which is very difficult. As we saw in game 1, like, it's very funny when you go back and look at game 1, which for Innovation and his fans seems like a damn eternity ago. The 2 racks look like 100% win rate build, like you build the first bunker, it never is going to be contested and killed. That second one goes down, it's curtains for the Zerg, and the Zerg is getting an early Roach Warren. So it looks like more of the same, as despite the fact that Mutiling Baneling was the meta at the time and what all Zergs who wanted to play a macro game went into, Soulkey doesn't want to do that. He wants to at least open Roach, and this is going to allow him to be more defensive early and have a more sort of balanced and hardy defense. If you rely on Ling Bane, you're weak to Blue Flame Hellion, you're weak to Hellbat. It's not as good as against Mind Drop. It's just whenever you make Roaches, you're way less likely to die. They're also really good against Hellions, so Innovation is doing a Hellbat drop this game. He got an early armory, Soulkey sacking an Overlord. He sees some research, but I mean theoretically that could be Cloak Banshee. Innovation, not a Cloak Banshee guy, and definitely not at this time. Hellbat drop occurring, and Innovation wants to drop on the Lings and burst the Lings down and basically do hot pickups with the Hellbats, and we see mining is stopped there, so this drop is already going better than the Belshear game drop. But he does lose a Hellbat there, and notice intelligently, whenever Innovation dropped those Hellbats, like, he did like a hot pickup after the initial first shot and just like bursted all the Zerglings. That's why people went Roach in this era, if they just wanted to go a defensive Roach style. Obviously, we've seen Soulkey putting the pressure on with Roach and doing like Roach Bane all-ins this series, and really that's really the only way that Zergs have been able to compete with Inno this season. But you don't want to defend this with pure Ling. It's like, you know, like the shitty Hellbat builds in Legacy of the Void, famously like Innovation's last GSL match when he looked like he sort of gave up. As he loses a medevac there, he did like a throwaway Hellbat build. His heart wasn't really in it. Well, whenever I look back at this game, you just have to remember how strong the Hellbats were and they were incredible. They dominated the TVT meta, and you sort of forced the Zerg to go into Roach there. And it's a similar deal with the Hellbat builds in Legacy of the Void, where you're saying to the Zerg, like, you better not try to defend this with pure Ling. Like, you can make a bunch of Banelings fine, but like, it's a big waste to make a bunch of Banelings. The Zergs have more utility, or the Roaches have more utility, and we see a full creep drop on the third of Innovation right when he's flying it out. This is so intelligent. This is something that every Zerg player should be mimicking. Do that shit on the fourth base too. It's so irritating when you have a full creep drop. And remember, on the Belshear game, he didn't get that full creep drop. He got a crappy little half drop that only stayed for about 15 seconds. And it looks like Soulkey is really going to be able to delay the third here, as his upgrades are ahead. If we pay close attention to the game and the upgrades, Soulkey is in a way better position than he was in any of the macro games, other than, you know, the Roach Bane game, but I'm not counting that as a macro game because he did a big follow-up all in, and he's pressuring the third, but we can see him going into Muta here. So finally, after 6 games, we're getting a real Muta game, and he's gone Burrow as well, which he hasn't gone once all series. So a huge curveball thrown at Innovation, and Roach was intelligently burrowed to save it, and then he'll use it to harass, and the Mutas will kill the Polt Viking. So this game's suddenly heating up incredibly. By far the best game of the series, and holy shit, Inno's gonna do a huge Doom drop and doesn't expect Mutas, as from the first time since game 1 Mutas are out, Inno probably thought he was going for a big, oh my god, a big ground and pound forces. Holy shit, a huge counterattack is going to be attempted as the third is super vulnerable. And it was in a huge power trough. He did a huge risky move, not expecting Mutalisk to be out, and a massive bloody mine hit goes off there. And oh my god, he just doesn't repair the fucking missile turret. Things are going to shit for Inno. This is not good. This is game 7. He let it go to game 7. Now, if this macro game gets a little bit squirrely, he could lose. Bane's, oh my god, they just straight detonated on the third. Inno loses his third. It's 4 bases against 3, and he gets knifed in the back, in the CC, at his main again, as everything is just going to shit here for Inno. One of those games where you're just a second late to everything. Everything is sort of gone a little bit wrong. You fall behind. The Zerg takes advantage. The Zerg takes another little advantage. He knows that your third defense is a little late, and to throw Burrow at someone when you haven't shown it all series in a best of 7 is something that's very hard to adapt to in the live moment, and he gets the third again and knifes into the main again with Mutas, as this is exactly what you want to do with Mutaling Bling, is keep their army out on the map and then knife in with Mutas, and it looks like Innovation's just going to do a big fuck it push, as Soulkey doesn't have a ton of Banelings. He is now morphing them. In Innovation, attacking mid-side of the map, he killed those rocks earlier, and Soulkey bringing his mutas back. Innovation's taking a ton of damage in the main this game. One of those things where, like, if he had a couple mines there earlier or had an extra missile turret, it would have been okay, but in every ladder game he's ever played, he just repairs that missile turret and is fine. But in this GSL Finals, he's probably a little bit rattled and was a little slow on the draws. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you put a couple mines there, it really helps. You also want to have a couple mines at your front door here, and you really have to defend this third. If you lose this third again, you lose the game. The Zerg player has Hive. He's getting adrenal glands. And again, the Zerg is going to knife in with mutas, and he's going to try to snipe the add-ons, and a huge swell of Ling Bane screaming into the third. A big bloody mess is going to occur at the third base there, as Inno lifts his third, saying, I'm not losing my third this time, but he loses a shitload of workers, and the Zerg knifes into his main again. Oh my god, Innovation taking extreme damage. He might lose his main CC, and that's huge. Even though he's almost mined out, the energy on that is absolutely crazy, and he would have been able to just move that to the middle of the map fourth base, as Soulkey has really kept the pressure on ever since that little soiree out at the third base, as now he's screaming in with Ling Bane. His Innovation looked completely untouchable all season, and now he allowed it to get to game 7, and everything has gone to shit. He's been one step behind all game, And this is one of those unfortunate games that seemingly 9 times out of 10 these things wouldn't cascade like this and happen, but it's just one of those games where everything goes wrong and it's so frustrating. And if this happens on ladder, you just say, damn, that was so irritating. Like, I'll just go next, forget that game. But this is a game that would go on to define Innovation's career, as Innovation runs in with a very weak army. He's been heavily assaulted all game, basically has nothing left, and he GG's. Soulkey oh my god, his mother going crazy there. Soulkey completes the first and only reverse sweep in GSL history. Absolutely crazy. As if we just consider that game, the Innovation going, oh my god, I cannot believe I just threw that. He's just floored. He's like, I can't believe I fucking lost. It is just out of control. Like, just ridiculously disappointing. And it goes on a level of not like a choke, but one of these things that is it's going to floor you to such an extent emotionally, where I don't think that's a loss you ever really get over. You're up 3-0 in the GSL finals. You are playing in the scariest and most important tournament of your life, and honestly, like in StarCraft 2 history, this is like the GSL you wanted to win. Like Flash and all the gods of the game are coming over. You're up 3-0, like you look infallible. You lose to one all in, like okay, whatever. You lose to another all in. All right, well it's all right. I got him on this map. I'm gonna do my Akalon 2 racks. Oh shit, he blind countered it. Now it goes to game 7. Well, as that's like presumably Innovation's sister or girlfriend. But you look at that and you say to yourself, in that game 6, it's on Akalon Waste. It's a defensive macro map. It's really easy to take my 3rd and 4th. Do you need to do the 2 racks there? Do you have to go back to that well for a second time in the series? Zerg players are cheesing you because they're afraid of your macro play. We saw him dismantle Symbol, who came with the sniper build. God, this is so sad. Innovation has to fucking stand up here and do this loser's interview. He should just be able to, like, go home, you know? Like, Jesus Christ, that was such a devastating moment. Yeah, Soulkey's like, I can't believe I won. Like, you're sitting there at the end of game 3, like, this is so fucking over. Like, I made the joke when he's doing the all-in, like, what are the chances that he comes back and is able to beat this guy who has looked unfathomably brilliant against the best competition in StarCraft history and all these legends of the game that had come over? As I guess that might be Soulkey's sister. It's hard to say, you know, but if you're an Innovation fan, it's flooring, and if you're Innovation, it's devastating. And the thing is Innovation would go on to win a couple GSL titles in the future, so when I say this goes on to define him, I don't mean like he was a Sue type guy that only won second places, but man, you're up 3-0 in the GSL finals. You go to game 6, you're on a big macro map, everyone's scared of your macro, you can take the pocket third base. Symbol just did like a sniper build against you that was map specific and was going to be really good at busting you on that map, basically showing like this is what you want to do if you want to bust someone on Akalon with the Nidus follow-up, and you held it like a pro. And you choose to be aggressive and go for the 2 barracks rush. And then the crux of the issue is really Inno nothing but fucking Roach Bane for 5 games, and he just says, alright, I'm gonna like go into a Rambo drop. This idiot's on like Roach Bane. He's gonna play super defensive like he did on the Belshear game. And if he's going Hydras again, like they're not a threat to like catch my stuff while it's over the air. I can just turn back, and holy shit, he had a dozen mutas right where the dead zone was, right whenever I tried to drop. And it's one of those moments where like you take a big risk as Terran that works like in 9 out of 10 ladder games that you play, and it's like, oh, all of his mutas are there. And then like you just lose off that and laugh, and you're like, I can't believe that like all of his stuff was there. Like he hasn't shown mutas. That's like the crux of the issue that you have to remember. Like in this game, like Inno hasn't seen Spire, he hasn't seen mutas, and that's one of the most wicked things about this is whenever you're playing this game, like it's just absolutely soul crushing to like go around and be like, okay, have this little engagement, run around, basically get your third crushed, and like I don't get like, look at this, like okay, the Viking dies, and Enno scans and see he has Lingbane mid-map. I wonder if he thinks he like loses the Viking to a queen, or just it's really easy to lose your Pult Viking like into queens, and he wasn't watching it. It was microing his army, but like he hadn't had to defend the Muta harass, and it had been all Roach Bane, remember, in all the previous games, and he was defending a Roach attack at his third, so like he really didn't expect all those mutas to be out. And look, even if all those mutas are out, it's like, oh crap, they're right where I wanted to drop. That's devastating. And then he comes in and gets the turret. Everything is downhill from Inno from this point on. When he kills that command center, that's like a true like jaw drop moment. That's like if you're watching with your friend, you like grab your friend's arm, you're like, bro. Because like remember how much of a heavy favorite Inno was and like how infallible he looked, not only throughout the season, but through games 1, 2, and 3, it was like there was no way Soulkey was ever going to win, and it's like that turret dies and that CC goes down, it's like Innovation is fucking cracking. This is like bad, and like like you give credit to Soulkey, like constantly keeping the pressure on, and like this is what I'm talking about in this era and why it was so fun to watch is like even whenever the Terran player is like getting roughed up and pulled apart, we're seeing constant action. Like the game is really not like this anymore. It's not as action packed and fun to watch, and like we're looking at an era where the Widow, look at like the massive splatter splashes in this series with these mine use. This was my most excited. This was to me like the most excited I ever was about a finals, and this was my favorite season of GSL ever, and I was like so floored and surprised when Innovation won, or lost rather, when Soulkey won. I like just could not believe that Inno lost. He looked like he would never lose against Soulkey, and the fact that Soulkey reverse swept him, like think about how many like boring one-sided GSL finals where one of the guys goes up 3-0 and Tastosis are sort of smiling and being like, well guys, I guess he could reverse sweep, and like everyone knows like it's not going to happen. Like this last GSL finals with Artie's last commentary where Maru got his 5th title, and after 2 games you know that Ragnarok didn't stand a fucking chance. It's like really, really brutal end for Inno, as this is one of like the most stunning losses in esports history, and just an absolutely crushing defeat for my boy Inno. But this is like one of those movies where like it ends in a sad, tragic way, and you were expecting a happy ending because it looked like there was no way in hell Inno was ever gonna lose. And even whenever they were going into Daybreak, it was like, well, shit, Inno, like, go tank, man, like, go 2 factory tank like you did in the game on Whirlwind, where you just crushed. So, it was just such a ridiculous reverse sweep. Like, what a way to end the GSL. So, that was the Innovationathon. Subscribe for more.